Hello and welcome to Out of India Theory. Hope you guys are doing well. I've been traveling a little bit in the Himalayas, as you can see, all the mountains and the meadow, the bugyals behind me, and I'll show a little bit in front. Well, you can't apparently. Okay, there you go. That right there. It's a beautiful view. So today I wanted to talk about a topic that I've been looking into for a while now, and it comes from quite an unexpected source, because the question is, who wrote the Vedas, or rather who created the Vedas? Because we all know that the Vedas have been around for a very long time, right? Thousands of years. But I mean, there's a lot of scholarly debate and controversy over exactly how many years, but then the date keeps getting pegged back and forth as new evidence emerges. But it is widely accepted and known that even before they were written down, they were actually a body of sacred knowledge that was orally passed on with maintaining high accuracy. So the question is, rather than asking who wrote the Vedas, I ask who created the Vedas, who were the original authors. Yes, I also know that over a period of many thousands of years, there have been many additions and modifications and layers on top of the original Vedas. So that's not the point I'm making right now. So the widely held consensus is, well, at some point it was the Aryans, who lived somewhere in Central Asia, who came down, but then that's kind of not really accepted now. And then there's the Out of India theory. Well, no pun intended, channel name. But I was reading about this, and I found some interesting information from a surprisingly unexpected source. Bal Gangadhar Tilak. So if you've ever been to school in India, you will know Bal Gangadhar Tilak as this freedom fighter. Excuse me. So if you've ever been to school in India, you'll know Bal Gangadhar Tilak as this freedom fighter, really part of the Indian nationalist movement who fought for independence from the British. And we read a lot about him in our books and history books. And but I was made aware of his interest in research in a lot of other areas. For example, he was a mathematics professor. He taught mathematics, and he was deeply interested in the Vedas, and he wrote 2 books trying to date the Vedas. And the first book was Aryan. I think it was in the 1890s. I'm not sure of the date. But then that's not the book that I am interested in right now. So I'm interested in this book that he wrote, which I read or have been reading, called The Arctic Home of the Vedas, which I find very fascinating. According to Tilak, the Vedas were written by a group of people who originally lived close to the poles before the Great Flood or something. I think they call it the interglacial period. You know how in Earth's history and geology there are these glacial periods. So there are warm periods in between where there's civilization possible. And he speculated that they were the original authors of the Vedas. Now, of course, that's up for debate because there's a lot of geological DNA evidence and everything, and I'm not quite sure there's for and against. Because he found, as a mathematician, astronomical references. Now, I'm not going to go into the book. I'll probably list the details later. But he listed how there are references to long nights and long days in the Vedas. Now, long nights and long days are possible only if you live very close to the pole. 6 months, a day can last 6 months and a night of 6 months, which is unmistakably near the poles. I mean, there's no other place on the planet that's possible. And he also spoke of other astronomical details, and he spoke of the connection between the Vedas, the close connection between Vedas and the Avestan speaking people, the Iranian people, and how they also have similar astronomical evidence pointing to at least a part of the Vedas originally having been created by people who inhabited somewhere in the north, extreme north. And I say north, I mean all the way close to the poles. And according to geological evidence, let me just shift from one hand to the other. According to geological evidence, it was totally possible. Like those areas might have been highly inhabitable back in the day. It's only possible if it was in an interglacial period about at least 10,000 years ago. Okay, of course, it's widely disputed scientifically, but I find it very interesting that it's possible. Why? Because I am somebody who believes that humanity is not the only, this is not the present and only incarnation. There have been many civilizations before. I mean, people talk of the mythical Atlantis and Lemuria and all these places which existed before, and they came and went under a deluge. I have no doubt that we have barely scratched the surface of our history. The antiquity of humanity, I think, goes past. So there's this train of thought. There are people who survived a cataclysm before 10,000 years ago, and some of them maybe, I mean, there was a civilization with extraordinary advanced technology who built all these, extraordinary architecture that we see in ruins these days. People who could probably, leave the planet. I mean, now it's completely fringe, I know. People who went underground, for example, to escape cataclysm, and somehow they evolved separately. And this can explain, because this channel is about also non-human intelligence and aliens and everything, there is a strain of thought. There is a group of people, the Nordic aliens and so-called Terrans, people, or what we call aliens, but humanoids from a previous civilization who escaped and who want to have nothing to do with humanity, who may be our progenitors or gods or whatever. They could have been living near the pole, maybe when it was more habitable, and went underground, and maybe the Vedas came from them, Sanskrit. So I found a lot of very interesting connections. So if you're really interested, that book is available on the internet. I recommend reading it, even if you don't agree with it. Say why you don't agree with it, and what are the modern discoveries that completely conclusively disprove that. If you know, please mention in the comments. But I find it interesting that there is a possibility that, for example, the so-called Nordic beings, the blonde-haired Aryans who come from under the earth or somewhere in the cold north, could actually have also been, the authors of the Vedas to begin with. Maybe it's possible. Let me know what you think.